am going to be presenting on managing the virtual classroom. I'm Ms. Wright for those of you new to campus. Why is it not moving?
Click on it. So click. Remember, click.
All right, managing the virtual classroom. I want you to look at this slide and just think about for a minute if you are looking at this as a cliff you're about to jump off of, an opportunity, or you are following somebody, leading somebody, or you're up on the balcony looking out at the view. Either way, we're all going to get through this journey together, and we're all at different places in our learning. So if you have questions, again, put it in the chat. Mr. Du Bois is managing the chat, and we will try to address those as we go. Mute your mic, all that. Okay, so we are going to go through the lesson cycle. And so the do now, the I do, the we do, the you do, and in science, we also use the 5E. So the lesson cycle for the do now, some of the virtual tools for engaging and hooking students can be things like videos, things that are a Padlet. You can use a Padlet. You can use any type of resource that is going to get their attention and have them be engaged in the learning for that day. When we get to the I do, Ms. Aiken mentioned this morning about incorporating your LO and your DOL into this portion, and Mr. Martinez cited talking about referencing this in middle school language. So that's really important that when we talk to the students that we're talking to them at a 6th, 7th, or 8th grade level that's aligned to the lesson. So again, everything we talk about today can be adapted, adjusted, and aligned for your content. I'm going to be speaking to you from a science lens because that's the content that I serve over and serve with. So I want to be sure that everybody knows that all of this is the campus-wide expectation for the lesson cycle for whatever content you are in. On the I do, that is going to be where the teacher models. More specifically, my suggestion for this, after having been through all of these trainings that we did prior to returning to campus, those of you who have taken a lot of the trainings that were required and or optional that Mr. Martinez sent out with how to use the virtual platforms, one of the things I am looking at doing is taking Loom and videotaping myself with an anchor chart. Or you could be writing an anchor chart in front of your students live, whichever platform you prefer to do, whatever you're more comfortable with. And of course, you can change that throughout the year as you get more comfortable with digital tech. Additionally, modeling expectations, having those high expectations of our students and what you want them to see in an exemplar product. With the We Do, you can break them out into small groups. You can use this for show call and to show that exemplar as well with breakout rooms. And with the You Do, the platform, the world is endless with technology on how you can put them in different resources by content that are ideal for you. So we are going to talk about how to access curriculum. I know a lot of you, if you're new teachers, went through that perhaps at New Teacher Academy. We're going to start with the big picture in mind, how to find the curriculum and then adapt the tools to that. So again, this is for science. Some of the science resources that are engaging, hands-on would be teacher-led, science notebooks. And I want to clarify something that Mr. Martinez mentioned in his, I believe it was yesterday. Asynchronous is on demand and synchronous is live. So on this campus, Mr. Martinez had mentioned that he doesn't really care for those words. So he has tweaked them to say live and on demand. So when we say live, that means you, the teacher, are in front of them, and when it's on demand, they can go back and play it back, review it, see it again at any time. Kind of like what Ms. McCowan just did with providing you some resources. Those are things you can do on demand on your own time. So with the science department, we have science interactive notebooks. The hands-on can be teacher-led. The science department has linked some science resources that are hands-on but virtual. And BrainPop, just so you know, if you're new to our campus, the campus librarian or media specialist typically has the subscription access to that so that it's accessible to our campus. If you're coming from an elementary school, oftentimes you have that for free, but we can get it here usually with our campus librarian, who's Ms. Smith. And I want you to notice under independent practice, the word literacy. So Mr. Martinez had mentioned, Dr. Martinez, excuse me, had mentioned that literacy is an initiative that is campus-wide this year. So keeping that in mind, I want you to keep in the back of your head how you can incorporate literacy into all of your lessons as we go through the year.
It's 86 people in there. That's about, it's like,
Nobody in the cafeteria can get. I'm sitting, I mean, I'm still sitting there.
here they are now. I see like 3 people now.
Did you get mine?
Anybody who comes through, I'm clicking the mid-aisle.
All right, so the science department has gone and created the digital science notebook for the entire year for the science department for all grade levels. So don't be jealous if you're in another department. Science rocks, yay, science. But it is not completely done, it's already tabbed. So how Ms. McCowan went through and demonstrated to you how to create that notebook, the science department has already done the tabs for that so that you are able to click there directly. This is not advancing.
Click on it.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so we're going to go through Power School Learning, not through a curriculum training on this, but if you have not enrolled in your curriculum, if you are new to the district or new to the campus, or you're new to a different grade level than you had last year, you will need to go to Enroll in Power School Curriculum. The bit.ly is there. You do not need to do this right this second, but I'm going to walk you through on this presentation how to access your curriculum regardless of your content. And then obviously on step 2 here, you can ignore that if you're not science because it is not relevant to your content. Okay, so when you go to the science resource page, you're going to add content block, choose your grade level, and then add your curriculum. It will go down model lessons. And it also has a curriculum resource guide and an adaptations crosswalk. And all of the contents, again, can be adapted and adjusted. So regardless of which content you're in, this should be available. So again, if you're changing grade levels, maybe you taught 8th grade last year, you're teaching 6th grade this year, or you came from an elementary campus and now you're at a middle school and you don't have this loaded in your system, this is how you'll load that. When you go there, the district has already loaded asynchronous and synchronous or on-demand and live opportunities and options for learning for each TEK and each unit here for this, for your content. So hopefully, and where this is in red, it's hyperlinked. I'm not going to hyperlink out of this because it's going to mess up the presentation, but you can click on these and it'll take you to the specific adaptations crosswalks for each grade level for science as an example. So your other contents, again, should be similar. When you go and add your content, you can go through, like I said, and add each unit's here, how you'll teach it. It breaks it down with the model lessons. And again, this is where you'll find the digital notebook that the Science Curriculum and Instruction Department has put together for the Science Department. And each tab in these lovely, beautiful colors is already done in the order of the YAG for the entire year. And these are hyperlinked here. All right, so for students to be able to get into things, we typically have them go through Clever. If you look under student applications, SSO that's circled in the red, you will have the kids access that. Then they're going to go to Think Central, and this is how they'll access their textbook online, if you choose to use that. Now, I know Ms. McCowan was about the digital notebook, get them away from the textbook, but if you want to use the textbook as a reference and link things electronically, this is the place for you to do that. So you'll go to Think Central. You will find your content where it's circled there. Choose which textbook you use, depending on your content. There's math, there's social studies, there's science fusion. And then you'll pick your grade level. Teacher resources are provided here as well. So you have like the teacher edition of the textbook digitally. And then you can go through and look at all of the different units here and get further digital information that is already prepared for you. And the TARP, Texas Assessment Review and Practice, right here, has a lot of resources as well for you to review that are star aligned. So now back to our digital learning tools. We are using Zoom. If you are familiar with Google Meet or Microsoft Teams, these are other platforms, but Google or Zoom are going to be the conference platforms that we use. And on this campus, Zoom is the preferred choice, but this is a comparison of those. At this time, I want you to write in the chat, please, if there are any other applications you've used as Google Meet extensions or extensions to help with your technology. And Mr. Du Bois is going to be managing the chat. Any other extensions that you find helpful in a virtual platform?
So right now we don't have anything yet, but yeah, if you can post in the chat and I'll read them out. Screencastify. So we got 2 Screencastifies right now. Jamboard. All in Learning has an extension for clickers, Mr. Wildermuth stated. And then Ms. Garcia stated that she uses her iPhone and iMovie to create pre-recorded videos.
All right. The next slide is about designing virtual lessons for accessibility. And I'm not going to click on this, but if you click on the multicolored concentric circles, you will find a PDF that's about 9 pages of how to accommodate and adapt your lessons virtually for those that are deaf, hearing impaired, have anxiety, dyslexia, and things of that nature. So it's a very good resource and ideas and tips for designing for accessibility. So this is good for all of our learners on campus as we differentiate. Google Classroom, we've talked a lot about. It provides a digital access for students to turn in their assignments, work independently or collaboratively. So again, where it says independently or collaboratively, this could be done for your We Do or your You Do. So if they're working in small groups and they're in breakout rooms in Zoom, then they can work collaboratively. If they're working independently, it may be that they're just working on one thing by themselves, either live or on demand. And you can monitor the student's progress. And if you click on the Google Classroom here, it will take you to Google Classroom. So if you need extra help there, there's a link for Google Teach listed there. These are class codes that I have for different teachers' classrooms. And so once you join a class, obviously I know a code will be generated. So you can imagine that's what your students look like with multiple classes. So now we're going to talk about going from paper to digital. So for science, we have like a worksheet here for science safety, and now we're going to look at how we would convert that to a Google form or a Google Doc where they could interactively click and drop lab safety procedures and symbols to the type of safety. So that's one example of how you can make that be a worksheet turned digital. Another example, here's a safety quiz. And again, we've converted it into a digital safety quiz. Other tools for digital learning, this is not a complete list, and these are all free. Quizzes, Kahoots, Quizlet Live, Flipgrid, Nearpod, Pear Deck, BrainPop, CK12, Texas Gateway, the PhET simulations, ThingLink, Google Sites, Padlet, Jamboard, which Ms. McCowan walked us through with the SEL, so that's a fantastic tool to use for that. Answer Garden, Khan Academy, Edpuzzle, and Whiteboard. So you all may have other digital tools, and I would encourage you to share those with one another since we're all on this journey together through this digital platform. The platform for distance learning, again, is Zoom or Google. Extensions allow for breakout rooms and allow you to work with small groups. All in Learning, as I stated earlier, is for exit tickets, DOLs, assessments. It will export to Gradebook, and it allows for you to track data by standard. And it will also allow you to have a student report generated coming in September. I know it's September 1st, but when I went to the training in August, it was said that the students will have access to generating their profile reports as well. So we'll Google Classroom and Google Slides, you can insert a video for the Engage piece. If you've heard of Miro, Miro is a poll option for student engagement, and you can use this to have students respond to a question or topic. It can be a whole group response. It also allows for a virtual whiteboard, I believe. And teachers, I know you've probably heard this a million times, but you do have a YouTube account. So when you are uploading your videos, you can do this through your free Google account for this to be your Engage piece. It could be your Direct Teach piece, it can be your on-demand piece. And again, I mentioned BrainPop already, and it can be uploaded into Google Slides and into your Google Classroom. PowerPoint. When I attended the training this summer, I found one of the presenters mentioned something in PowerPoint that I had never found. And maybe some of you know this already, but again, I'm learning with you. So in PowerPoint, you can have your voice translated into another language based on the text and it presents on the screen. And you can have it be presented at the top, at the bottom, or as an overlay. So in PowerPoint, I've listed the exact steps to do this for translation. So you go to Google Slideshow. On the far right, you check always use subtitles. The spoken language you're going to select is English. The subtitle language for our population that I selected here is Spanish. Then you select where you want the translation to be, and it will translate again at the top of the slide, the bottom of the slide, or on the overlay of the text. And this will allow you, if you're recording, to translate into Spanish or whatever other language it allows for in PowerPoint. I found this to be interesting. Again, some of you may be well versed on this, and I was a novice to this feature of PowerPoint. And I attended the elevation session, as well as many of you may have already done so. It's one of the required trainings for us. And to access elevation, you go into Clever and you get to your login by clicking on the elevation logo. You go to the landing page with the dashboard and the login. And this is where you, under instruction, you can click on the toggle to translate resources into Spanish. So this is a huge resource for instruction. There are tons of digital pre-done by TEAC assignments digitally in this elevation platform, and this is part of the district curriculum as a tool. Again, it also translates into other languages, I believe, besides just Spanish, but I'm using that as an example. Again, Zoom, we've Zoomed a whole lot, a whole lot. You can pre-assign rooms for small groups, pullouts, or interventions. A substitute or a co-teacher can be added as an alternative host, and students can use nonverbal feedback or the meeting reactions to give you a response so that you can gauge the feedback from students that are learning as they go through the lesson cycle. PowerTeacher Pro. Monitor student logins. I found this fascinating as far as options you can use for your lesson cycle and determining who's actually logging in. I know as instructors, we wonder who's actually here in class. Are they actually getting in here? Are they actually doing their work? How do I know if they've been in here at all? Did they click on and then click off and pretend to turn the assignment in and never actually do it? We've all been there. So you can monitor students' logins and time on task. You can check to see if they've ever been in class. To do so, you go to Manage Class, View Analytics. This will show students who have logged in. It will also show you not only the students that clicked specific resources, but also how long they spent on that resource in minutes. So again, that was a takeaway from me with all these trainings we've had over the last several weeks while we've been at home. All right, so that is the end of what I have to share on this presentation. I would like to state that all of this can be, again, it's a big platform, and with the backwards design of taking the end in mind, when we're creating our assessments, just to keep in mind that they're aligned, that they're adaptable, they're adjustable, and that they have high expectations for all of our students at Seagoville Middle School. Thank you. And I'm going to hand it back to Mr. DuBois.
All right, well, let's give a big thanks to Ms. Wright in the chat. Show her some love of the presentation that she presented. I've seen in the chat a lot of people were not aware of a few things that she presented, and some were, so that was a lot of great information that's gonna make us successful. So please show her that love in the chat. It is 11:40, but before we get started, before we go to lunch, which is at 12, I want Mr. Mayberry, he had a quick announcement he wanted to do. Go ahead and do that now. Mr. Mayberry is free, so you can unmute yourself. go ahead and announce that, and then I have one other announcement before we release the lunch.
Just real quick, for anybody that wants to get down with the fantasy football, if you want to play fantasy football, I'm gonna send my email in the chat, and you can just send me an email, and I'll start getting those emails ready. Just want to let everybody know, anybody that wants to play. All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. And before we leave,